Al dat nieuws, het nietszeggende nieuws, dan komt er ook veel onwaar nieuws bij.
We know what you mean. It's a labyrinth of realities.
Costa Rica's health ministry confirms second imported case of Zika virus.
Medical epidemiologist and newly appointed coordinator of Costa Rica's National Disease Vector Control Program, Rodrigo Marin Rodriguez, said that Costa Rica could see up to 60,000 cases of Zika infection in a worst-case scenario, in an interview published by the daily La Nación on Friday.
De wereld heeft er nu een Zika-infectie bij. Wist u dat al? Was u op de hoogte gesteld?
Karnataka students made to wear cotton box on the head to prevent copying.
The shocking incident, which took place on Wednesday, came to light when a video clip showing students of the co-educated private college writing the exams wearing cartons, ostensibly to prevent them copying, went viral on the social media on Friday.
Die Wahrheit hat es immer schwerer, sich durchzusetzen. Unser Mittel dagegen, Journalismus mit Anspruch und Haltung, frei zugänglich für alle. Unterstützen Sie diese Idee und helfen Sie, die Zukunft.
Canada's best prime ministers were losers. So let's stop turfing defeated party leaders.
Missing Ottawa man's vehicle located, police still looking for him.
Dr. Cornel West and Carl Dix, a founding organizer of Refuse Fascism and representative of the Revolutionary Communist Party, will lead the first of 5 protests set to take place every Saturday until November 16th.
Ja, maar, u had het net over een ziekte, nu over iets heel anders. Kunt u nog wat vertellen over die nieuwe ziekte?
Early this week, Costa Rican officials announced that anyone arriving in the country, whether by land, sea, or air, will be required to fill out a questionnaire aimed at identifying those who have symptoms of the virus.
Is it not strange, they say? Announce that anyone arriving in the country, whether by land, sea, or air, will be required to fill out a questionnaire aimed at identifying those who have symptoms of the virus.
Airlines crews will also be required to note in their standard declaration of health, if any of their passengers appear to be sick when arriving in the country.
Authorities are also considering deploying body temperature scanners in airports and other points of entry.
Wat is dat dan voor een ziekte, die dus niet naar binnen mag?
Ik zal eens kijken of ik het ergens kan vinden in het Nederlandse nieuws. Ondertussen kunt u luisteren naar een muziekje.
It was 1947, deep in the Uganda forest. A British virus hunter named George Dick was researching the dreaded yellow fever virus, putting rhesus monkeys in cages, letting them be bitten by mosquitoes to isolate the virus from their blood. But George Dick noticed something strange in rhesus monkey number 766, a virus never before seen. He called it Zika, after the forest. And when he published his paper in 1952, Zika had not yet been seen in humans. But it would be soon. Zika is a member of the nasty flavivirus family, including yellow fever, dengue, West Nile, Japanese encephalitis virus. All are transmitted through the bite of a mosquito. Once inside the blood, the virus reproduces. And when another mosquito comes along and feeds on that infected blood, it picks up the bug and carries it to the next host.
If you've been bitten and infected with the virus, and you get on a plane and you go to another country that happens to have the same mosquito vector, and that mosquito bites you, then very quickly you've set up the circumstances for rapid growth and transmission.
The first recorded human carrier was in Nigeria in 1968. But over the next decade, Zika began traveling east as human infections appeared in India, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Zika had fully infiltrated Africa and Asia. But it was another 40 years before Zika made news again. April 2007, on a small Pacific island called Yap in Micronesia, when a rash, red eyes, and joint pain started making people sick. The cause? Zika. The first time it had been seen outside of its usual range. Scientists warned the virus was headed for the Americas. In 2013, Zika showed up on Easter Island, triggering the largest outbreak to that point. Then it traveled to all of the islands of French Polynesia. The next summer, several Polynesian teams headed to Rio for the World Sprint Championship canoe races, and experts think Zika hitched a ride with them, hiding in their blood. It was August 2014, and the Zika virus had landed in the Americas. A year later, May 2015, the first confirmed case of a Zika virus infection in Brazil in the northeast part of the country. By October, 14 Brazilian states had confirmed the spread of Zika. And the virus had also jumped the border into Colombia. By November, it was in Venezuela and was marching north to Central America, showing up in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico. Still causing only mild disease, but something disturbing was happening in northeast Brazil. Health officials noticed an unusual increase in a severe birth defect called microcephaly.
Brazil typically reports about 150 to 200 cases of microcephaly per year, and in the past year they've had just over 3,000 cases.
Then laboratory tests found evidence of Zika virus in a few of the victims. So on December 1st, Brazil issued the alert, making the chilling association for the first time. It's an association that has not been proven.
The type of studies that would confirm a cause and effect linkage or a strong association have not yet been done, and I think it's a first order of business.
By mid-January, the World Health Organization was linking Zika virus infection with the risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a neurological disorder causing muscle weakness and temporary paralysis. By now, the world was in full Zika alert. Health officials in El Salvador advised women to delay pregnancy. Health Canada advised pregnant women to consider delaying travel to the affected areas. Airlines started offering refunds. And today, the World Health Organization declared the emergence of microcephaly to be a public health emergency.
Evidence is growing and it's getting strong.
All based on the precautionary principle.
You never know whether it's an overreaction or not until all the evidence is in.
Most people infected with Zika will never know they have it. But in the era of SARS, Ebola, and international travel, no public health official is prepared to take a chance. Kelly Crow, CBC News, Toronto.
Drie jongens gaan opzichtig een fiets stelen. Hun lengte, leeftijd en kleding is hetzelfde. Alleen hun etniciteit verschilt. Wat voor soort jongen was het? Die bezig?
Ik denk een vader.
Vond u hem verdacht eruit zien?
Nee.
Wat dacht je?
Niks.
Je dacht niks?
Ja, hij is sleutels kwijt, dacht ik. Dat is mij ook wel eens gebeurd.
Maar waarom zei u niks?
Nou, omdat hij zo rustig was. Nou, het leek me wel gewoon iemand die ook vader zou kunnen zijn. Hij zag er gewoon netjes uit, zoals ik er ook uit zou zien. En het zou mij ook kunnen gebeuren.
Ja.
Dus,
Sorry? Is die fiets van jou?
Hoezo? Is die van u? Gaat u de politie bellen?
Ja, natuurlijk.
Goeiedag.
Je bent je sleutels vergeten.
Ja, zeker. Klopt. Sorry?
Is het jouw fiets?
Hoezo?
Ja.
Het ziet er verdacht uit als iemand een heer en damesfiets met een kinderzetje gaat jatten. Hoi.
Vertel eens, wat is het verhaal?
Waarom maakte u foto's?
Oh, ik kan het altijd nog een keer opsturen naar de politie of zo, denk ik dan. Deze meneer is bezig. Ik dacht even, ik ga er wat van zeggen, maar toen dacht ik, ja, goh, straks krijg ik een klap op mijn hoofd met die grote nijptang.
Ik dacht, waarom doet niemand iets? Maar ik dacht ook, ik ga er zelf niks van zeggen, want u weet, doet hij mij wat aan.
Ik denk dat u weet waarom dat hij komt.
Hoi, goeiedag.
Nadat onze fietsendieven alle 3,5 uur bezig zijn geweest, kan je stellen dat de meeste mensen zich identificeren met de witte jongen. Terwijl ze de donkere jongens verdacht of zelfs gevaarlijk vinden. En daarom vaak de politie bellen. Bovendien wordt de witte jongen zelfs geholpen.
Betonschaar? Kijk dat niet met betonschaar? Ja, als je hier gewoon knipt, weet je. Zo gebeurt.
Tot 2 keer toe.
Dat wel op maatje.
Zou wel fijn zijn, ja.
Knippen.
Ja.
Als wit persoon hoef je je onschuld niet te bewijzen. Je bent in principe oké, totdat het tegendeel bewezen is. Dit voordeel wordt ook wel wit privilege genoemd.
In 2016, the Zika virus resurfaced as a sudden worldwide epidemic. 100,000 cases of Zika have been confirmed in 2016 in Brazil, with over 10,000 confirmed cases in Puerto Rico and a projected amount of 875,000 cases at the end of 2016. The Obama administration in the United States declared a public health emergency on August 12, 2016, as the virus spreads to other parts of South and North America. With these numbers, it is estimated that over 1 million people have contracted the virus around the globe. Where did Zika come from? The Zika virus has actually been around for a long time. It was first identified in 1947 in monkeys in Uganda, while scientists were routinely monitoring the yellow fever in the Zika forest, hence the name Zika. The first human cases of Zika were detected in 1952. The geographical distribution of Zika spread to India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Pakistan between 1969 and 1983, during which time there were many sporadic human cases of Zika, but no major outbreak was observed. The first major outbreak occurred in 2007 in humans on the Pacific island of Yap and Federated States of Micronesia. From 2013 to 2014, large outbreaks were observed in 4 other Pacific islands, most significantly in French Polynesia. Most recently, in February of 2016, the World Health Organization confirmed that the recent cases of microcephaly and neurological disorders were in fact associated with the Zika virus, declaring it a public health emergency of international concern. So what is the Zika virus? It is a vector-borne disease, which means it is most commonly transmitted from the bite of infected arthropods. Examples of some arthropods are ticks, sandflies, and mosquitoes. Zika is transmitted by the Aedes mosquito, which once was only found in tropical and subtropical zones, but now has spread worldwide, allowing Zika to be easily transmitted across the globe. Other less common ways Zika can be transmitted is via sexual activity, infected pregnant women to her fetus, blood transfusions, and organ donations. The Zika virus usually incubates or remains dormant in your system for up to 3 to 12 days, after which symptoms may start to show. According to the Government of Canada, only 1 in 4 individuals infected with the Zika actually experience mild symptoms. These symptoms may include low-grade fever of about 38.5 degrees Celsius, conjunctivitis that causes red eyes, vomiting, and weakness. However, the most concerning effects of Zika are its resulting health effects. Several countries have reported an association with Zika and the onset of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare autoimmune disease in which your immune system attacks your nerve cells. One way this happens is if proteins of your immune system, called antibodies, attack the surrounding protective sheath of a type of nerve cell called a Schwann cell, causing them to shrink. This can cause a slow transmission of nerve signals across nerve cells. Anyone can develop the syndrome, however, it is more common in older adults over the age of 50. Symptoms include weakness in the arms and legs and trouble breathing. Another severe health effect of Zika includes microcephaly, a birth defect in which infants are born with a smaller head size as compared to other infants their age. This is due to the brain not being able to grow properly during pregnancy, resulting in compromised head growth. Pregnant women affected with Zika are at risk of their infants developing microcephaly. The infectious pandemic Zika virus is currently occurring throughout South America, Central America, and the Caribbean and United States. A 2016 study conducted by Monaghan et al. Analyzed data on climate, mosquito breeding patterns, poverty, and air travel, and identified Miami, Orlando, and Houston as the 3 United States cities at greatest risk of Zika. The study also reported that the southeast part of the country faced the highest risk, the eastern seaboard a moderate risk, and the western United States the lowest risk. In terms of climate, meteorological conditions in the greater parts of the United States are largely unsuitable for the Aedes mosquito during the winter months. The exceptions are the previously mentioned states, where warm conditions can sustain low to moderate mosquito abundance throughout the year. Zika has also been linked to socioeconomic conditions, in that lower usage of air conditioning, poor housing infrastructure, and decreased access to safe water has been linked to increased exposure to mosquitoes. Air travel patterns are a further indicator of Zika, as the virus fluctuates seasonally. July and August are the 2 months with the highest estimated number of passengers arriving to these areas by air from other countries, and this may increase the infection rates and the spread of the virus. Unfortunately, no cure exists for the Zika virus. Instead, the most common remedy is to treat the symptoms. There are also many preventative measures that one can take to slow the spread of the virus. One of the main ways to do this is the prevention of getting the mosquito bites, by using netting over sleeping areas, wearing long-sleeve shirts and pants, and applying bug repellent. Since Zika can also be transmitted through sexual activity, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends using condoms, or abstaining from sex for approximately 6 months after the onset of symptoms or latest exposure. Finally, as you watch this video, research is making breakthroughs as multiple vaccines have progressed to clinical trials. Though much more research is needed, there is hope for the eradication of this virus. So at the end of the day, the Zika virus is not just an airborne disease, and is not contagious by merely being around individuals that are infected. The virus spreads predominantly through mosquito bites by the Aedes mosquito, sex, mother to fetus, and blood transfusion. Thank you for watching.
What if you could use genetic engineering to stop humanity's most dangerous predator? The deadliest animal on the planet, responsible for the death of billions. The mighty mosquito. Along with other diseases, it plays host to malaria, one of the cruelest parasites on Earth, possibly the single biggest killer of humans in history. In 2015 alone, hundreds of millions were infected and almost 500,000 people died. A new technology could help us eradicate malaria forever. But to do so, we need to engineer a whole animal population. This is not a hypothetical problem. The modified mosquitoes already exist in a lab. Should we use the technology? And is malaria bad enough to risk it? Malaria is caused by a group of microorganisms, Plasmodia. Very weird microorganisms that consist of just a single cell. They're parasites that completely rely on mosquitoes. Malaria always starts with an insect bite. In its salivary glands, thousands of sporozoites wait until the insect penetrates your skin. Immediately after invading you, they head for the liver, where they quietly enter big cells and hide from the immune system. For up to a month, they stay here in stealth mode, consuming the cells alive and changing into their next form, small, drop-like merozoites. They multiply, generating thousands of themselves, and then burst out of the cells. So thousands of parasites head into the bloodstream to look for their next victims, red blood cells. To stay unnoticed, they wrap themselves in the membranes of the cells they killed. Imagine that! Killing someone from the inside and then taking their skin as camouflage. Brutal. They now violently attack red blood cells, multiplying inside them until they burst, then finding more red blood cells, and this cycle repeats over and over. Pieces of dead cells spread lots of toxic waste material, which activates a powerful immune response, causing flu-like symptoms. Among the symptoms are high fever, sweats and chills, convulsions, headaches, and sometimes vomiting and diarrhea. If malaria breaches the blood-brain barrier, it can cause coma, neurological damage, or death. The parasites are ready for evacuation now. When another mosquito bites the infected human, they get a ride. The cycle can start over. In 2015, the Zika virus, which causes horrible birth defects if it infects pregnant women, spread rapidly into new areas around the globe. It too is carried by a mosquito. The mosquito is the perfect carrier for human diseases. They've been around for at least 200 million years. There are trillions of them, and a single one can lay up to 300 eggs at a time. They are practically impossible to eradicate and the perfect parasite taxi. But today we have new revolutionary technology that could enable us to finally win the war against them. CRISPR. For the first time in human history, we have the tools to make fast, large-scale changes to entire species, changing their genetic information as we please. So, instead of attacking isolated groups of insects, why not just change the types that transmit diseases? Using genetic engineering, scientists successfully created a strain of mosquitoes that are immune to the malaria parasite by adding a new antibody gene that specifically targets Plasmodium. These mosquitoes will never spread malaria. But just changing genetic information is not enough. The edits would only be inherited by half the offspring because most genes have two versions inside the genome as a failsafe. So after just 2 generations, at most only half of the offspring would carry the engineered gene. In a population of billions of mosquitoes, they would hardly make a difference. A genetic engineering method called the gene drive solves this problem. It forces the new gene to become dominant in the following generations, overpowering the old gene almost completely. Thanks to this twist, 99.5% of all the engineered mosquitoes' offspring will carry the anti-malaria edit. If we were to release enough engineered mosquitoes into the wild to mate with normal mosquitoes, the malaria-blocking genes would spread extremely quickly. As the new gene becomes a permanent feature of the mosquito population, Plasmodium would lose its home base. Scientists hoped that the change would be so fast that they could not adapt to it quickly enough. Malaria could virtually disappear. If you take into account that nearly 500,000 children are killed by it every year, about 5 have died since this video started. Some scientists argue that we should use the technology sooner rather than later. The mosquitoes themselves would probably only profit from this. They don't have anything to gain from carrying parasites. And this might only be the first step. Malaria might just be the beginning. Different mosquitoes also carry dengue fever and Zika. Ticks transmit Lyme disease. Flies transmit sleeping sickness. Fleas transmit the plague. We could save millions of lives and prevent suffering on an unbelievable scale. So, why haven't we done this yet? For one, CRISPR editing is barely 4 years old, so until very recently, we just couldn't do it as fast and easily. And there are valid concerns. Never before have humans consciously changed the genetic code of a free living organism on this scale. Once we do it, there is no going back. So it has to be done right, because there could be unwanted consequences if we set out to edit nature. In the specific case of malaria, though, the risk might be acceptable since the genetic modification doesn't make a big change in the overall genome, it only changes a very specific part. The worst case scenario here is probably that it might not work or that the parasite adapts in a negative way. There is still much debate. Technology as powerful as gene drive needs to be handled with a lot of care. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, is it unethical to not use this technology when every day 1,000 children die? Humanity has to decide how to act on this in the next few years. The public discussion is way behind the technology in this case. What do you think?